Welcome to Newshour. Chaos has continued all day at London Heathrow, Europe's busiest airport, after a nearby electrical substation caught fire, cancelling more than 1,000 flights and causing massive disruption to passengers and cargo. The fire also left almost 5,000 homes without power. Ollie Barrett is at Heathrow in London and has the latest.
Well, the UK government, Guy, says it's almost unprecedented for Heathrow to be completely shut for a full day in this way. 1,300 or so flights would have been due to come in and out of the UK's busiest airport on a Friday like today, and with all of those cancelled and those in the air having to be diverted elsewhere before they could land here, that has left thousands of passengers scrambling for alternatives.
I'm pretty stressed out. I do have animals back home that I need to get to, that I have to make arrangements for someone to look after, since I don't know when I'll be able to get back home. I do have appointments leading up to teaching on Monday, so I'm hoping that I don't have to cancel class on Monday.
Stress, I'd say.
Yeah.
Because we're flying to Minnesota, but our college is in Iowa. So we're gonna fly to my house in Minnesota, and then we're gonna drive back to school. Mm-hmm. So I guess just having less downtime to be prepared for school again on Monday.
Yeah, having more of a break, and also we're missing some family celebrations at home.
Yeah, my mom's birthday's tomorrow.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, and so missing that's kind of gonna be a pity.
This was all caused by a major fire at a local electricity substation. Now, that fire, we're told, has been brought under control now, but all sorts of questions for the government and airport authorities about how a local fire at an electricity substation can bring down the whole of Heathrow Airport. The UK government says that it believes that the fire was so big that it also knocked out a backup generator, but the UK government will also face ongoing questions about whether it has enough contingencies in place to make sure something like this cannot happen again. At this point, the government says it doesn't believe there's any evidence so far that this was a malicious attack of any kind, but it's looking into exactly how this fire was caused in the first place. The knock-on effects of all of this are going to be felt for some time, even if operations get up and running again here at Heathrow on Saturday, because many tens of thousands of passengers are in the wrong place. Many flights and planes are also in the wrong place, and all of that now will need over the coming days to be rectified and rearranged. So the disruption here at Heathrow today is basically complete disruption, but over the days ahead, the knock-on effects are absolutely going to continue. Ollie Barrett at London's Heathrow Airport for A News.
Now, Anita Mendarata is Special Advisor to the Secretary General of UN Tourism and author of the book on crisis management entitled The Call to Leadership. And I'm delighted to say that Anita joins me now from London. Thank you very much indeed, Anita, for joining us. Let's start with the basics then. How could this happen? The busiest airport in Europe shut down for an entire day due to a fire not even within the airport itself.
Indeed, and thank you very much for having me. It's interesting, I could have heard your question literally 8-9 months ago when the CrowdStrike incident happened and Microsoft systems caused an outage of airlines and airports around the world. How could these things happen? These are, and the word has been used over and over, unprecedented but extraordinary incidents. And calling it extraordinary is also important from the point of view of the implication that that has when it comes to passengers and passenger compensation. How does this happen? Ultimately, the power source, which is not only impacting what is the UK's largest customer, effectively Heathrow, also impacted 16,000 homes. So it's an entire community, an entire energy network that's been impacted. It needs to be relatively close to the airport to allow for uninterrupted power, effectively transmission going into the airport, which is used for ATC, it's used for radar, it's used for lighting, it's used for passenger services. The challenge is that the fire knocked out the backup as well. That was the real issue. So it wasn't as if we were able to switch over. No airport in the world wants to shut itself down because they know the intensity of the disruption. And if we look at the incident with Heathrow, it was just before 3 a.m. this morning that the airport had to announce it was going to close. And thank heavens it was at that time, because the last long-haul flight had landed and the curfew period was ultimately starting. So there wasn't a lot of activity taking place, which means the airport leadership were able to connect with the global aviation community to alert that they had a problem, that we need to create plans to be able to either divert aircraft or stop them from actually departing in the first place. So it's a massive issue. How did it happen? The exploration and the investigation needs to establish that. But for the moment, we need to recognize 200,000 passengers are not very happy, along with 16,000 homes.
Now, you work with leaders in the airport and airline industry. When a crisis like this happens, what actually takes place behind the scenes? Is there some kind of alert that triggers a military-style plan, or is it typically something more organic that tends to happen?
Every airport, every airline has an emergency operations center. And your question is very important from this point of view. It is not a situation of suddenly the CEO of Heathrow Airport getting a phone call to say, sir, we've lost power. That's not what this is about. They plan on these incidents to be able to scenario plan, how do you solve them? There are true primary corridors of solving. There's the operational aspect. So Heathrow, in terms of its operations, was it all terminals? Was it all systems that were impacted? So yes, there is a plan, but it is organic because it depends on the incident and the scale of the incident. Alongside that, there's the issue of how do we manage the disruption of passengers, but also cargo, because 95% of those passenger aircraft, the belly of the plane is filled with cargo, and we're looking at over 4,000 tons of cargo a day going through Heathrow. What is the impact on cargo, on supply chains, on customers, et cetera? So the teams that take place in airports that are managing both of those, they have the expertise in place. They have the systems in place for understanding, for resolution, and for communication. And that's why we found, for instance, in London, Heathrow Express, the Elizabeth line, all of those the rail services going to Heathrow were stopped, because you don't want to create bottlenecks of passengers and bottlenecks of very heated, understandably, emotion of people who are frustrated, upset about what's happening, and severely disrupted.
Yeah, I guess when things like this happen, Anita, it highlights, doesn't it, just how many moving parts there are to keep planes in the sky, not just physical, logistical, but also the financial infrastructure working behind the scenes.
It's very complex. And add on top of that the complexity that you're dealing with a customer base that are human. And so you have the emotional complexity on top of that. What I love about the point you're raising is that if you look at it, aviation is, I always say, the combination of exceptional engineering and artistry. It really is remarkable. But it is ultimately a vehicle for human transfer of people around the world. And with those people go hopes, aspirations, huge emotion, whether it's someone traveling on business or someone traveling on leisure. They're going with their bags filled of all of the intentions they have to make something happen as soon as they land. So you're dealing with that complexity as well. And that's where, as much as the logistical systems and engineering might be able to come back online, dealing with the human component is vital. And that's where, again, thankfully, we were notified that Heathrow will probably close until midnight. So people can at least plan a degree of runway of managing expectations of, okay, if we're closed till midnight, what does that mean for me today? What will that mean for me tomorrow? What help do I need? And how can I sit back patiently and just let the experts get on with what they need to so I can get back on the aircraft?
Now, let's talk a little bit about media coverage, whether it's TikTok videos of turbulent flights or criticism around climate change. There's certainly a lot of negativity and worry out there surrounding the travel and tourism sector at the moment. But is this a real reflection of the current state of the industry?
Oh, absolutely. The travel and tourism sector it's actually exceeding now rates of growth from pre-pandemic. It has recovered enormously because it is such an emotionally fueled desire and, quite honestly, expectation of our lifestyles now. So it's continuing to grow. The challenge is that, especially aviation, it's as much as it inspires such incredible awe when things are going well, it inspires incredible drama when things go badly. And that's where these videos don't help. The responsibility of the media, my argument, is take yourself out of your media role. You're human. What would you be doing if you were traveling today? What would you want? And then look at it from that perspective. And ultimately, I just argue that when there's a crisis in travel and aviation, the place you want to be is on the ground. And even if it's on the ground where you're not supposed to be, you will get there. The challenge is that we've become a very impatient generation because we expect to get everywhere exactly when and where and how we want to. This is a reminder that ultimately we rely on it, and therefore we need to respect it and be grateful for it. So we will learn through this. The whole global network will, and hopefully travelers will as well, that just hold one's breath. We will get everyone moving again, but not until everyone is moving safely.
Well, a positive and practical message there to end on. Anita Mendarata, many thanks indeed for your analysis.
Thanks so much.
Well, that is all we have time for on this edition of Newshour. Please do stay with us for plenty more news and analysis. And from all of us here in Baku, thank you for watching.